From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazan. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcast, and now on our YouTube channel where you can watch that podcast. Sean, how's it going, brother?
Doing great. Before I get started, remember the Fox 8 Overtime YouTube page. Be sure to subscribe, like, share. You can rate, review, all that good stuff. The response to the new look, I guess you could say, the temporary new look as we get moving along here with this Overtime Podcast has been positive. So we certainly appreciate that. We have ditched the green screen, give it a little more cozy look. So we certainly appreciate the response. Also, the final word feature, I want to get to this because we have a final word feature on the Final Play app. You can submit some questions, comments, whatever you want to talk about. You could submit that on the final word feature of the Final Play app. So here we are on this Tuesday, the time of this recording. Sil, did you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
I did. I had some family in town. We got to enjoy the New Orleans Greek Fest, so that was
nice.
A lot of fun.
He is Greek, in case you guys don't know.
You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
No, it was a good time. Sunburned, but definitely worth it.
I took a trip out west, visited my sister in San Diego. My first time, well, not my first time out there, but first time staying out there for that longer period of time. Got there Friday, came back Monday. Great time, great weather. Got to tell you guys, though, sneaky cold in San Diego. And my sister had to warn me of that before we left. And, it was chilly at certain times of the day. So it was just because, you're so used to summer, San Diego, sunny, but
right.
That snuck up on me a little bit. I'll be more prepared for that next time we go, but it was a great time going to visit my sister, brother-in-law, and my nieces out there in San Diego. So we had ourselves a good holiday weekend, but we are back today.
And so were the Saints.
So were the Saints getting to work back from the holiday weekend. And, Dennis Allen, when he spoke, said, frankly, we look like a team that had 4 days off. So I'm going to get into 4 things that I noticed from this OTA practice, but let me just start big picture by saying this. This is par for the course. Typically, the second week of OTAs, the second availability we're able to see is not going to be quite as lively as the first, just because, the first one, everyone's first availability, first time seeing these guys, maybe, and for the Saints, the first availability we saw was actually their first practice, and always the first practice is a little extra sort of pep in the step. Today was not quite as not quite as crisp as Dennis Allen put forth. It wasn't a bad practice. It was just a little muddier, not quite as smooth.
The shine kind of came off a little bit.
I don't want to say it was bad, but because there were some good things, and I'm going to get into that. But there were some things, some noteworthy items that came out of this practice, and I've labeled them 4 things that I felt like were important that we learned in this practice. Number one, as in the cornerback who wears number 1. Allante Taylor, that is his new number. He is now wearing number 1, but he wasn't just playing. It wasn't just a new number. It's a new position. He played the entire practice at nickel on the inside. So that's important. Why is that important? Well, A, Lattimore and Adebo were both gone. Neither one practiced today. Neither one were there today. And yet, unlike last week, Taylor was playing on the inside. And he spoke with us after practice, and he said it is still very much a work in progress from him. He has got to learn that position. He doesn't feel comfortable right now completely doing it. He's going to do it because the coach has asked him to do it. But I think he was pretty realistic and pretty self-aware about where he's at with that position, because look, when they drafted him and it was asked, last year, where do you see him? The coaches said outside, but clearly they're trying to get him on the field to see if he is available to play inside. Because if it's not him, it's going to be Bradley Roby, who was also not at practice on Tuesday or not in attendance on Tuesday. And I felt like Taylor was pretty real about how he felt, how it went, how he still has a long way to go in learning the position, but also very real in saying, I still feel like I'm an outside corner. So we'll see how that we'll see how that plays itself out.
He's got the speed to maintain being an outside corner, and I mean, speed is a plus at any position on the football field. We all know this, but I mean, at some point you're going to have your fastest guys lining up against their fastest guys, no matter what.
Well, playing nickel versus playing outside is different. Obviously, there's different ways to play, different techniques. Obviously, when you're on the inside, you don't have the boundary as your friend. You're not as close to the boundary. He said there's better help when you're on the inside. There's a few more things you got to recognize in terms of fronts, where the linebackers are going to be. He got caught on a shallow cross during 7-on-7 where he was kind of chasing Rashid Shaheed. That's a tough break for anyone. That's a tough challenge for anyone when it's 7-on-7. That's geared towards the offense anyway. So Allante Taylor, excuse me, that whole Allante thing from a season ago was weird. Working at nickel to me is significant. I don't know if he's going to stay there. And I'll say this. If he doesn't grow at that position and it's obvious and he's not comfortable, the Saints don't need to risk that. They could always play Bradley Roby there.
Sure.
They could always play Bradley Roby and then let Taylor and Adebo battle for the corner opposite Lattimore. Or, like last year, someone got hurt and Taylor was on the field anyway. So I do think that's something to monitor going forward. Last week he was playing the outside. This week he's playing the inside. So I do think that's something that is significant, and it's going to be a storyline as they head into the end of OTAs and into training camp. Number 2, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 2, War 22. Another new number. His name is Rashid Shaheed.
What?
Yes. Had himself a day, partner. Had himself a day. Now, what did I warn you guys of earlier before OTAs? It's easy for whoever is around the ball to get noticed because there's no pads and you can't tackle. So, yes, am I breaking my own rule? Maybe a little bit, but I have to say what I saw. I saw Shaheed had a nice day.
Yeah.
He had a nice day. Now, look, the Saints didn't have any of their starting secondary available other than Marcus May, but he made plays. And all you can do is when you're on the field, you got to make plays. And look, remember, this is like his 4th practice with the new starting quarterback. He had 4 receptions today, 2 and 7-on-7. We had the one-handed catch, as I mentioned earlier, on a shallow cross. Then in team, which we were only allowed to watch 3 plays a team, there was a little mix-up in terms of going from outdoors to indoors and when they were moving us to get ready for post-practice interviews. So we're only able to see 3 plays. But the 3rd play we saw was a big one. Derek Carr, deep post, Rashid Shaheed, touchdown. So Rashid Shaheed is a guy we've always felt like could make the jump from year 1 to year 2. He was a nobody at this point last year. No one knew who he was last year. No one, except he was the guy the Saints gave a lot of guaranteed money to when they signed him as an undrafted free agent, but he was still coming off an injury. Talk about a guy making the most of his opportunity last year, carrying it over into the offseason, which is not always easy to do with a new quarterback.
Yeah.
But the confidence is there. He's way more, I said this last year, he's more well-rounded than people give him credit for. He's not just a 9-route runner and return guy.
Crisp route runner.
Like I said, he ran a shallow cross. He ran kind of a hook. He ran kind of a skinny post. We did make a sliding grab from Jake Hayner.
Solid repertoire.
And then a deep post from Derek Carr. So I think certainly you want to see that growth there. And I like what I've seen from him over the first couple of practices. And I guess if you can say that if there was a star today, it would be Rashid Shaheed. I thought he had a nice afternoon. So Rashid Shaheed, a nice day today. Are you ready for number 3?
I am.
All right. Number 3. This kind of plays hand in hand with the overall theme of not being quite as crisp. The attendance dipped a little bit. Today. And there were 15 players we counted that were not in attendance here. Some of the guys were from last week, but a few new names. Roby did not participate. James Washington was not there. Lonnie Johnson was not there. Tyrann Mathieu was not there. And then the big one, I don't say big one, but one where like maybe there's another reason, but I don't see how this would help him, was Traquan Smith was not there. And I think he's on the bubble to begin with. I don't know if there's an injury he's dealing with or he had another commitment, but
I mean, that's just something you feel like you'd want to take advantage of every possible opportunity, right?
For him, yeah, that would be you got to get on the field and you've got to get on the same page with Derek Carr because he doesn't know you, and your longevity or your
tenure
here is not going to matter with a new quarterback. You've kind of been on that bubble as it is. You're definitely on it this year. So Traquan Smith not being there was certainly something to monitor. Going for, again, optional, voluntary, don't have to be there. But I do think it was significant that he was not there. And all those 15 guys that weren't there, you throw in Taysom, Ramczyk, Kamara, Lattimore, Michael Thomas, Hurst, Pete, Adebo was not there. And then 93, Nathan Shepard was not there. Demario Davis was back. He wasn't there in week 1. He was there, obviously, this week. Now, he could have been there for the other OTAs last week.
Right.
But the one we saw, he was not available. We know it from pictures, the conditioning program, he has been present before OTAs. So he spoke after practice. He said, I didn't think I was going to be preaching today, but he was dropping some. he was fantastic today. You'll see, if you watch Fox 8 News at 10 on this Tuesday, you will see some of the stuff that Demario Davis was speaking about. He was asked about thinking about how long he wants to play. He goes, I think about it all the time. But basically, it's out of his hands. It's in God's hands. And right now, he wants him here in the moment, being 56. So Demario Davis was certainly there. It was interesting to watch him and Pete Werner play off of each other today. So attendance was certainly noteworthy because last week they had 80 of 89. This week I counted 15 missing. So
that's still not a terrible number.
That's not terrible. It's over 80%. But I thought it made an impact because you only have McCoy along the offensive line. Look, there's pads come on.
Yeah.
That will make the difference when it comes to offensive lines. It's not the craziest thing in the world for them to not have every offensive lineman, but that's a whole position group where there was a lot of backups. And then you look in the secondary. Again, Taylor could eventually be a starter. I'm not penciling him in there right now, but I think he will be eventually. So other than Marcus May, a lot of your secondary was missing as well. Number 4, you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Number 4 is number 4, Derek Carr. Again, you have to watch this weekly because you have to see a progression with your quarterback, in particular a new quarterback, a new franchise quarterback that spent a lifetime in another organization.
And who has had a bunch of hype surrounding him since he got here.
Yeah, and you look, man, you see the awareness, the football IQ, and I don't know, you'd have to ask him, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk to him before OTAs in terms of where's his true level of comfort. It just feels like he's maybe a little further along than I would have expected. I was expecting a few more sloppy plays. I was expecting a few more, throwing an out route when the guy's turning in. I was expecting a little bit more of a couple throws in the dirt, or maybe a couple where he's expecting to throw when he holds the ball. It's just a different look or a different terminology. Didn't quite get the route he was expecting based off of whatever the typical normal stuff that happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe we just got so used to watching,
but it hasn't happened yet.
Lower level quarterback.
Maybe, but it just hasn't happened yet. Now, look,
Yeah.
he did throw an interception today. It was on 7-on-7, or it looked like an interception. It was a 7-on-7. Looks like the defense kind of they checked out of a man coverage, dropped into his zone, and it was one of those where he looked left, wasn't there. Eventually rolled out to his right, kind of heaved one up, and 37. Who was 37? Troy Pride was able to pick the ball off, but again, he also made a nice play during team, the touchdown throw to Rashid Shaheed, and then also he threw I thought Olave had a good day today as well. A couple throws to Chris Olave, and then a little throw to Lucas Krull. So he wasn't perfect like he was last week, 8 of 8. Every time he dropped back to pass, didn't touch the ground during 7-on-7 or team. And it was an incompletion on a double move by Keith Kirkwood to open 7-on-7. But I think overall, you feel the meshing of Derek Carr and a new system and a new place. And I think overall, it's been a net positive. I think you're starting to feel that from the teammates. A, his personality, but B, how much this locker room, I think, was yearning for something like that.
Yeah.
Yearning for that quarterback to be that guy where there's just no questions asked. You just know. There's no ambiguity.
There was just like a vacuum in the center of the locker room that someone needed to fill, and Derek Carr is that guy.
So all glowing reviews from Derek Carr. over the first couple days. And look, like I said before, I do think you almost want to see some mistakes now. It's a good thing when you're making mistakes in May and June because you want to work through those things. You want to work through certain scenarios. You don't want to always be perfect. What good is being perfect in May and June? I mean, it ain't played May and June. I think this is the time to really, I think Tyron said it last week, make some mistakes, take some chances, see what's available, see what's not available, see where you're at, test yourself, test your limit, and then, move on. And I think it's kind of been that way for the first couple OTAs. It's no OTA number 4 we were able to see. The second one we were able to see OTA number 4 total.
Yeah.
So I think overall it's about where we expected them to be. I know last year around this time, we were monitoring Michael Thomas. We were monitoring Jameis Winston. This year there's a little different tone and a little different vibe in terms of where they're at. Again, I'll go back to my initial thoughts on Dennis Allen. I think there is a comfort level with where he's at. I think there's a comfort level and a confidence level with where his roster currently is. And I do think this has been carrying into this offseason program and then hopefully picks back up once they hit training camp. So, easy day, quick day, not a whole lot more to say other than that. So I think overall, a good day for the Saints.
And a good day for us. And the Saints are going to be back at it tomorrow and Thursday, and we'll hear from them again next Tuesday. So thank you guys for tuning in. For Sean Fazan, I'm Vasilios. Remember, you guys can find us wherever you listen to and now watch your podcasts. This has been the Fox at Overtime podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.